Good Wednesday evening, and welcome to This and That, the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic, we hope to bring you guests and topics you'll find both fun and captivating from the worlds of local politics, arts and leisure, pop culture, and beyond. Our sponsors for This and That, the podcast are Robert H. Hoke, Post 272, the American Legion on Mountain Road, Team PA, AAU basketball, and Rickabaw's Electric. Thanks to these great local businesses for their continued support of This and That, the podcast. How are you, Bill?
I'm hungry. That's
Bill,
what I am right now. I missed
cut,
supper.
We're going to have to cut the eating off, Bill. I'm telling you that not as a friend, not as a co-host, as a producer of this show, as a director and producer. You have a very good microphone there, and I can hear you chewing.
Well, hopefully that last bite will quench my
your appetite. You don't mind me telling you that, do you, Bill?
No.
We're here to try to have a good quality show.
Yeah, we're sort of on the fringe of professional and amateur. So that's the amateur side of me coming out, okay?
Okay, that's the end. Let's kick it into professional now. Is that all right?
All right.
Okay. So how are you, Bill?
Good. I mean, a lot of stuff's happening. So it's always good to be busy and working on public service stuff. And
it really is.
That's what I'm doing.
We do a lot of that, Bill.
Yep.
You do more than I, but I've learned from you. I'm kind of taking your lead and starting to do a little more in that realm. So
if you're learning from me, you should go get that hot dog off the stove and start eating it.
No. Anyway, what episode is this?
30.
All right. That's 3 in a row, you guys. This is episode number 30, man. So we're kind of doing this, we're kind of one episode at a time. We're getting it done. We're meeting a lot of interesting people, a lot of bright people, a lot of fun, funny, accomplished, talented, so a lot of fun here. And this is the People's Podcast. And let me remind the folks that may be watching or will be watching eventually that we call it the People's Podcast because we do like to involve the people, the viewers. We have a comments/question field that you can come in and ask questions, and we'll almost always answer them as long as they're tasteful and appropriate. And or if you just want to make comments, if you know our guests and you want to shout them out or whatever. And and we also call it the People's Podcast because if you have any ideas, people, as to who you'd like to have on the show sometime or a topic or topics you'd like to see discussed, please let us know. And we'd like to accommodate you. So anyway, upcoming on This and That, the podcast, we have 3 that are scheduled already, Bill. You know that?
I know we have a little bit of a break in terms of trying to get someone scheduled. So that's great. It's a good position to be in.
Absolutely. So tomorrow night, Thursday the 30th, we have Lower Paxton Township Supervisor Alan McCormick. He is a sitting supervisor and also running to defend or retain his seat. Am I using the right term there?
Yeah, I mean, some people are very particular about this. He's what's called an interim supervisor.
He's an interim supervisor.
He was appointed, not elected. So now he has to go through the election.
Okay. All right. See, I rely on you for that political stuff. Laura Kurtz, she's another appointed supervisor. I'm going to call her. She's on the board. She's sitting on the board of supervisors, and she's also the chair.
Right.
And does a nice job. I think she does a very good job. Anyway, we're excited to have her booked for this Sunday night at 11/2, November 2nd at 8 o'clock. And that's going to be shown on both This and That, the podcast's Facebook page, Linglestown Gazette's Facebook page, and the This and That, the podcast YouTube channel. So that's kind of being put out there to multiple platforms. And we hope to learn a little bit more about Ms. Kurtz as she enters the election day on Tuesday, the 4th. And then next Thursday, a week from tomorrow night, November 6th, we have Justin McShane. So we'll have 2 Justins in the span of 8 days, Bill. Did you try that?
No, I don't think I could do that if I tried.
I mean, all right. It just seems a little odd.
I think our guest tonight is younger than Justin McShane.
Okay, well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out who that Justin is in just a moment. After we let you know that our disclaimer here for this show is the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who voice them and do not necessarily reflect the positions held by This and That, the podcast, as an entity, Bill or myself or the sponsors who support the show. So we're clear now.
I got good news for you in terms of guests. I just need your help to book a expert in low cost travel.
Well, I already have her written down. I don't have her name, but I have her. I have her written down on my sourcing list.
She's ready. She's ready to go. We just have to get a date. Give her a couple of dates to pick from.
And I just talked to Tom Russell today, meteorologist and MC Tom Russell, and he's checking with his employer because he's in a public position, of course, and he has to get it cleared with them. So, I mean, he wouldn't, let's say, necessarily be representing his employer, but he's a very he's a well-recognized, easily recognized face here in the central Pennsylvania area.
Yeah, so. Some employers can be a little sticky about that kind of
especially
stuff.
When they find out it's going to be you and me asking them the question. They might not go for that.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't we bring in our guest here? We're excited. We've had him booked for a couple, 2-3 weeks now.
Yep.
And there he is, taking a sip of coffee. Let me grab it.
It's okay to drink, Justin. You just can't eat. Okay.
And we don't have to know what's in the cup either.
I'll tell you exactly what's in the cup. It's tea. It's
okay. Good.
Chamomile tea. So, how are y'all doing? Thanks for having me on.
Well, yeah, thank you. So this is Justin Douglas, and he is the first-term Dauphin County Commissioner. Do I have that correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk a lot about that. You're also running for Congress. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. And we're going to bring Bill in after. I'm going to ask a few questions here, probably more about the commissioner end of your professional life. And then Bill knows a little more about some of the other stuff. He's been covering politics for decades. And
not so much the county. Not so much county politics or government. I'll call it government.
Well, but between the two of us, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So, we're excited for this, and it's going to be hopefully a lot of fun. It seems like people call on the guests. The guests don't come on this show to have fun, and then when it's all said and done, they're like, "Wow, that was kind of fun," So let's see if we can stick up with that trend. Okay, so let's just ask you kind of the opening out of the gate canned question, Justin. Where were you born and raised? Educated? What kind of family did you grow up with? Who was in your home growing up? Was it a mother, father? How many siblings? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was born in Palm Springs, California. Believe it or not.
Oh, an aristocrat.
I lived in a trailer park in Palm Springs, California. Working class family. My mom was a single mom when she had me, but married shortly after to what I consider my dad, but he's my stepdad. I've never met my biological father. He kind of left my mom in the process of her pregnancy. And, I think a lot of my grit and hard work comes from, my mom and just seeing how much grit and hard work she had. And certainly my stepdad, like I said, who I consider my dad. I grew up, I'm the oldest of 5. So I had 4 other siblings who, all were born in Palm Springs, California. Ultimately, the cost of living and opportunity in Palm Springs became challenging. My dad was from Indiana. My mom was raised in California. And so at the age of 9, I moved to Indiana to grow up on a farm. So I always say I did the reverse Beverly Hillbillies, went from Palm Springs to a farm in central Indiana. My parents had a religious experience in California. And so I was raised in a pretty religious home, Christianity, evangelicalism. Was very active in church growing up. Was very active in my youth group as a high schooler. Felt the call into ministry during that time, and wanted to go study to be a youth pastor. Ultimately decided to go to Liberty University. I have 2 degrees from Liberty in religion. From there, I spent 20 years in ministry prior to becoming a commissioner. I'm still a licensed pastor, but and I fill in occasionally at the church I planted here in Harrisburg. We moved around a lot. So right out of college, I was in Northern Virginia for a period of time, and then I lived in Boston for a while. Spent a good portion of my time in Wisconsin. All 3 of my children were born in Wisconsin. Just to go back, I met my wife in high school, and we both attended Liberty and got married after Liberty. but all three of our kids were born in Wisconsin. And a little over 10 years ago, we moved from Wisconsin to here for me to take a church here. And yeah, that's kind of the brief overview. If you want to go deeper into any of those buckets, we can.
No,
but that gives you a little bit of an overview.
Am I ever glad I asked? That's a heck of a background, and I mean that. And thank God for mothers like your mother and my mother, who I didn't have 5, we had 2 under my roof, but similar situations where she was kind of doing it all, and just people like that. We're just blessed to have them, and same with men like your stepfather. So a great story, and I think you're qualified to do a lot with that background. Bill, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, just a quick question, Justin. Well, the last church you were at, I guess somewhere in Harrisburg, can you tell us what that was, what that church was, if it's still operating and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I planted a church in 2019 called the Belong Collective. It's in Midtown Harrisburg. They meet at Pennsylvania Steam Academy. We previously met at Midtown Cinema. And Haley is the lead pastor, Haley Warner. And I'm still very involved. Occasionally when she's on vacation, I might guest preach. But obviously this job keeps me busy even on Sundays occasionally. And so I'm not able to be as involved as I was. Obviously, as the lead pastor, I was very, very involved. And as the person who planted the church, I was very involved, but it's got a lot of my heart. And certainly if you're looking for a church that's it's an affirming church, just meaning that, in 2019, just a little more of my background, I was part of a denomination that, took a stand to revoke my license over accepting LGBT people into the faith community, which was very important to myself and our community. And that we had voted, and 97% of our church, wanted to make a path. We had many students and others in our community who hadn't necessarily had a faith experience where they were, able to feel welcomed in a church. And we felt it was very important. Kind of taking that stance put me in a position where I lost that job, lost that church, lost that. And the denomination seized all the assets of the church because there really wasn't any members left after that decision was made. And a lot of that membership became the Belong Collective as we kind of had to hit the reset button and start from the bottom to the top. And so as far as I'm concerned, it has a lot of my heart because it was something that, we built and I'm proud of. But yeah, they meet on Sundays at 10 a.m. in Harrisburg in Midtown.
Yeah, that's a well, I don't want to call it a good story, but that's you showed your strength there, and LGBTQ people want to love God and Jesus too, and be loved by God and Jesus and people in the church. And that's I don't know how easy or difficult that was, but it sounds like it wouldn't have been too easy. But it
was incredibly difficult, and I think it's
I thank you for taking that stand, because that's the kind of stuff I hope I would do if I were faced with that situation. Justin, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I have 3 kids, and I lived in a parsonage, so we didn't own a house. So my salary also included my house. So losing that job also meant I had to go find, new housing. I went from being, a pastor with and I mean, look, pastors aren't paid a lot. I mean, but at the same time, it was a decent situation that I was in, to having to be tri-vocational. I was doing the work of planning a new church. I was driving Uber when I could, and I was CrossFit coaching and personal training at the local gym that I was a part of. So I was working 70, 80-hour weeks just to pay the bills and, put a roof over our head. And that was a decision that, I'm still very proud of as I look back at it. It certainly took a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice, but I would do it again if I had to. I just wish I didn't have to.
I'm proud that you did do that. So how about this? What was your inspiration to enter public service? Have you had any job in politics before your job currently as commissioner?
No. I mean, as a pastor, I was very involved in organizing and other things. I was, I think less politically involved earlier on in my career. And I think as my, career continued to go, and certainly when you take a stand for LGBT community, that gets you connected to a lot of people that you maybe wouldn't have previously been connected to. And that certainly wasn't my intent. It just kind of happened. And then I was very connected to the Mulberry Street Bridge encampment that got swept by the city just because we were a city church and we were very familiar with that encampment and had done a lot of work supporting the unhoused individuals there, and just kind of saw that that could have been handled in a more compassionate, dignified way. And just started thinking about, public service a little more. And then, honestly, I wasn't even eyeing the idea of running for commissioner. I was cold called by an organization called Run for Something that reached out and said, we think you might be a good fit for this particular office. There's no one on the ballot for it. And you should consider getting the signatures and running for it. And so that was kind of shocking to me, that I was somebody that they had identified as a potential person to run for it. And then the rest, I guess, is history in a sense. I did, and I was succccessful.
You never know who's watching you, Justin. Somebody was watching you. Seriously, you know that now. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, when you said no one was on the ballot, do you mean there was no Democrat on the ballot? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so I had an uncontested primary. There wasn't going to be anybody. There wasn't going to be anybody on that side. I mean, obviously, I think anybody who understands county politics knows George Hartwick and Mike Priest are pretty staying powers in a sense. They've been around for a while. And then I think Chad Saylor, you guys were just referencing people who had been appointed but hadn't necessarily won an election yet. That was his situation, but he had been involved in the county for a long time. He had been the chief clerk of the county for a long time. So I think there was an understanding that he might have an advantage. And I think at that point, most people who understood county politics were like, it's not worth running against. And I think was ignorant enough to think I might be able to win. So,
so I'm going to ask you one more question before I turn it over to Bill. Bill, and if you got a couple you want to ask, how do you avoid becoming a politician? Okay. How do you stay being a public servant, a person that's waking up every day to serve the people? And I think you know what I'm talking about, because
I know exactly.
I think the coolest, kindest, funnest, most honest, loyal, law-abiding people, some of them don't stay that way once they get into politics and they become politicians. Not that all politicians go astray, but how do you stay public servant rather than politician, Justin?
Yeah, I start with the fundamental understanding that when we're talking about politician, we have a lot of and even when we talk about just politics, right? If you talk to the average person and you mention politics, they just roll their eyes and they're frustrated about it.
Exactly. That's my point.
So I think the first thing I do is I try to really define terms. A lot of people do not I think special interest, politicians. I think there's ways we can frame that, because I do think we need to reclaim the word politics and politician. And I don't want to say that it's a hill I'm willing to die on. I think public servant is certainly the term that I would lead with. I think servant leadership is what I kind of modeled me as a pastor. I felt my role was to serve my community. And I feel that same kind of sense in public office, that my role is to serve the community. But I do want to say this: politics is really just how communities organize. You want a road to drive your car on, right? And so when we break down the fundamentals of it, it really comes down to how communities agree to organize. And we have this great American experiment that's coming up on 250 years of of all flaws and all, finding a way to get here. And I think there's something to be said about the value of people who care about your commute so much that, the roads and the streetlights and the things that often go unnoticed, or they just become such a daily part of our life.
Right.
And I do think we need to reclaim a gratitude for that and the people that do that work, and not just lump all politicians in, because unfortunately the people that do that work often get labeled as politicians, right?
Right.
I think what we need is a reclaiming of that term with the servant leadership, the integrity, the accountability, and the transparency that term really is supposed to have. And so I'm not necessarily against saying I'm a politician. It's who I am. I think though, first, I define that term as someone who shows up for the people and is committed to organizing the community and the resources that my office holds, that the county holds, in a way that's, equitable, fair, and accessible, and doing my best to safeguard taxpayer dollars and safeguard the county jobs that we have that deploy so many necessary resources throughout the county. And so that's my approach to the word. I certainly can understand why people want to throw it out though, because it's tainted.
Let's Bill, it's been a while. Golf clap for
Yep.
that answer. That was a
Yeah.
good one. So
Yeah, we
go
sort
ahead,
of
Bill.
emphasize public service.
Yeah,
here.
we kind of, a couple of people
That's
say,
good.
whoa, I'm not a politician, So I always try to address you people like yourself as public servants. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, on just to finish up on that topic, I mean, I'm actually starting to lobby that at least at the municipal level that we get rid of partisan elections. Like we don't. The school board's setup allows you to have nonpartisan if people cross file, right? But nothing at the local level. And so I'm at the beginning of that thing. I did find out in Lower Paxton Township, we had a manager who left under pressure. He had to leave. He went to Virginia, and in Virginia, they have nonpartisan municipal elections. They even hold them on a day separate from the partisan elections.
And Virginia is a commonwealth like Pennsylvania, so
yeah,
I would be interested to see how that works, how their constitution's set up and how their authorities are set up. We should always be reforming our systems for the betterment of clarity. And I think what we're really talking about is public trust. And I think the moment the public doesn't trust its leadership, it doesn't matter what name they're going under, whether it's public servant, politician, whatever, it's a real problem. And we're seeing a distrust in public leaders for sure.
Yep. Well, before we get into some of the stuff you're doing at the county level, I wanted to go back to that 2018 election, because most people don't realize that if you don't follow the political scene in our area, that was a watershed election, and that the Dauphin County Commissioners Board flipped to the Democratic side, and it hadn't been that way for over a century. So that's what I read, at least. I mean, it just shows you that things in Dauphin County from the Republican and Democrat count. I mean, it's changing now.
Yeah, the only correction I would have, I think you said 2018, but it was the 2023 election, and I was seated in 2024. So January 2024. It's okay. But you're right. It was a historic moment. We haven't had two Democratic commissioners. I mean, there was two different outlets that ran two different narratives. One said over 100 years, and one said since the Civil War. And the one that said since the Civil War, I haven't heard them be debunked in that. So I think it's really been since the Civil War. And so, so it's been quite some time since Dauphin County has seen, two Democrats carry commissioners' seats. And I think, it's a reflection, I think, on the changing maybe makeup of Dauphin County, the changing political persuasion of people. But I think we're also seeing people who are less interested in party affiliation and are more interested in just finding the right candidate that they believe in. And I think, there's something to be said about that right now too.
Yeah, no, it's a good point, because I know George Hartwick personally. He's a friend of mine, and he never felt like he was involved in anything all that partisan. Like, he felt there was three people, they were getting up in the morning and trying to do good for the people of Dauphin County. Is that how it feels now, even having a 2-1 advantage, let's say?
I mean, I think we all come with our different perspectives. I don't think look, Commissioner Priest and I have partnered on a lot of things. We've worked together on a number of things. So I don't necessarily look at Commissioner Priest and see a Republican that I can't find common ground with, and I don't look at Commissioner Hartwick and see, a Democrat who I agree with everything on, because I don't. So, I think we each have our styles and our history that we bring to the seat, and I think we each have our priorities as well. I'm more of a community activist, kind of coming from that perspective. I think they're coming from different perspectives. So, look, I think we each round each other out in that sense of priorities, that we probably do a pretty decent job from our perspectives of representing different perspectives across the county. But I think I haven't sensed that our, at times, inability to work together is entirely partisan, or even, it tends to be more about our personal priorities of problems that we want to solve, or problems that we want to bring attention to. And I in that way, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, and the last question on your election is that And these kinds of stories I'm attracted to. Like if you remember Jesse Ventura.
Oh
the
yeah,
governor.
wasn't he the governor of Minnesota?
Minnesota, yeah.
Minnesota,
And he was a wrestler.
Yep.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
he had a little
Navy SEAL.
Oh, Navy SEAL.
he had
Yeah.
a little bit of fame and notoriety coming into that, even though this is his first time getting into a race. But in your case, you came out of nowhere. One of the things I read was that you focused a lot on youth in your campaign. But as you reflect back on that campaign, what do you think were the keys to victory for you to get in office?
We knocked a lot of doors.
Okay.
We ran a non-traditional campaign. We were on social media a lot.
Okay.
I think we did social media differently than anyone else. I think, I'm a digital media native, social media native. I'm, 41 years old. So I grew up with a lot of these tools, or at least in my 20s, I was accessing a lot of these tools. And so, in that way, I think we had a different approach. I centered my campaign on, prison reform, and I was told by everyone that don't run a campaign on prison reform if you want to win. People don't care about prisoners, and I think there's some truth to that. Like, yeah, voters are not necessarily the first to line up and be like, we need to fix prisoners, but I do think what voters love is they love someone who's passionate, interested in solving a problem, and knocks on their door and tells them about it in a way that convinces them that this person cares about their community and wants to solve problems. And I think I did a good job of doing that. I also think I didn't count Republicans out. I live in Conewago Township, right outside of Hershey, where I would venture to guess the voting percentage in my particular township is probably 80-20 Republican.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I would just guess it's somewhere around there. It certainly skews Republican. These are my neighbors. I knocked their doors. I think we knocked over 2,000 Republican doors specifically. And I think we weren't afraid to have that conversation across party lines about ways that my priorities might align, or ways in which we might find common ground. And when you might be the only candidate that knocks someone's door, you make an impression and they choose to vote for you. And I only won by 184 votes on the night of the election. I was ahead by 42 votes. So it was a razor thin margin. And I think every door I knocked, every event I showed up to, every social media post I made, I think it made a difference.
So let me ask you this. One of the big, I guess, issues, one of the tax increase. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what people don't realize, the average person, is that there were no increases for, I'm just going to guess here, 20 years, 21 years. Was it that long?
It was 19 to 20.
19 to 20. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the increase was 21%. Do I have that right?
Yep.
So I think you can't win either way. If you weren't around except for the last, or were you around at all before the tax increase?
That was the first budget I voted on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but my point is, had the commissioners increased taxes 1% every year or 2% every 2 years, people would have been up in arms. They would have been upset about it. But when you wait this long and you hadn't raised them in 20 years, it probably looks even worse. Is that correct?
Yeah. And if you look at the history of what happened the 2 years prior to the 19 to 20 year stop of raising taxes at all, it was back-to-back years of major tax increases. I think maybe even more than 20%. And so you had all this, kind of back-to-back. And then what happened was those commissioners got voted out.
Right.
And I think it was very gun shy for anyone to raise taxes in any capacity at all. And I think that put the county in a very challenging position, because over those 20 years, the cost of everything went up. The cost of wages for employees, the cost of repairing facilities, the cost of office supplies, the cost of contracts, everything escalated in that time. And the county just continued to be put in a worse and worse position, to where, we're looking at, a massive deficit that we have to find a way to solve. And we're in that situation again, because even with an increase, we're dealing with the challenges of obviously the state budget and the federal budget, and also just the realities of of, like you said, there's something to be said for, if 20 years ago you increased it 5%, it would have had a windfall effect every year.
Right.
Right. And so like 20 years ago at 5%, you might have actually put us in a position where we might not have to raise taxes just because of the incremental reality of that tax base being built over the time. There's a lot to say about this. I guess what I'll also say, and this is just really important for Dauphin County taxpayers, I think, to be aware of, is Dauphin County hasn't had a countywide reassessment, I believe, since 2001. And so your house has, and let me start here. I heard from a lot of voters after that decision, a lot of constituents, a lot of residents of Dauphin County. I'm especially concerned about those who are dealing with a situation where they are on a fixed income,
Right.
and where they don't have a way, as their bills continue to increase, to build more revenue into their situation. And I just want to make it clear, there is a state program that helps offset that, the rent rebate program. So I just want to encourage people to look into that if that's the situation that they're in. But going from there, it's been since 2001 since we've had a reassessment. That matters because, the value of your home in 2001 versus the value of your home today. If your house was valued, let's just say at $100,000 in 2001, it's probably more than doubled in value since, right?
Yeah.
There's the real challenge of like, if we were to do a reassessment, we could probably cut taxes quite a bit, like in the sense of the millage rate would go down. And so there's all these other levers and other things. I don't think anyone wants a reassessment. If we don't provide services adequately, we could be mandated to do a reassessment. No one wants to talk about that, because once you start talking about that, you might trigger it. So I share all this to say, look, as a leader, one of the challenging things sometimes is making hard decisions. And that was an incredibly hard decision. And I'm sure this budget will come with a number of hard decisions. I think if you are in any level of government right now and you are talking about a budget, you are making hard decisions because there are many, challenges. And I want to safeguard taxpayers, and I want to safeguard our resources and the services we provide. So,
yeah, I asked you that question to give you an opportunity to make sense of it, and I think you did a great job of that. I mean, I understand that, and if anybody out there is kind of confused about it before you explained it, hopefully they understand a little better now that taxes are a necessary evil, and like you said, that the increases did not keep up with inflation for 2 decades, and you guys want to make the county nice. I mean, in layman's terms, you want to keep things up, you want to improve things, and sometimes there just becomes a need for that.
Look, we're proud of our Parks and Rec department, which won Best Parks and Rec Department in Pennsylvania for a county. I mean, we're proud of a lot of the things. Our elections department, we think we're some of the best at doing elections here in Dauphin County. Look, I'm proud of the fact that we, through this budget and through this vote, we last year we were able to support 2 more officers in our gang violence task force.
Important.
There's things that people have to understand, that like saying no to a tax increase also means saying no to a lot of things that are, I think, vital services and opportunities that exist in the community that the county does. But I'll just be honest, my office is always open to a conversation. Everyone who reached out to my office, even people who sent, letters cursing me out that left their number, I called them and I talked to them, and I shared that I understand their frustration. This is not a situation I wanted to be in, certainly not in my very first year, to be the first impression in the first budget that I passed, but it was unfortunately the reality of what I was handed, and I was trying to do the best I could for the constituents and for the county.
Okay, well, I'm buying that, Justin, by the way. Not just because you're my guest and I kind of like you, but it makes sense to me that it had to be that way. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, on the budget, I don't know what percentage of the revenue comes from property taxes, but in those years where they didn't do a tax hike, were we in a situation where there was development going on, things happening, which added more tax dollars to coming in because of the new development? And then if we move to today, has it slowed down in that rise of of revenue year after year due to development isn't there as much. Is that true, or where are we at with that?
I would assume some of that was taking place. I think that's a reality. I think you also have to always factor in Harrisburg and the reality that there's a number of properties here that are not on the tax roll because they're state properties. You know what I mean? And so that factors in pretty largely for the city, pretty largely for the Harrisburg School District, but it also factors in for the county. And so I can't speak to that because, for the last 20 years, I would have to go back and look at that. But my guess would be that there was income revenue was rising. But my guess would be the cost of county services was far surpassing the revenue being raised and generated during that time through new development or through new taxable properties. And so, or renovated taxable properties. That would just be my guess.
Okay, let me ask a question here that one of the viewers has. This is Nathan Walters. Nathan, thank you for watching us tonight, and thank you for asking this question. Nathan wants to know, how much benefit does the Hollywood Casino have to the county? I've seen this come up a lot since the tax increase was announced. What's the situation or the relationship there between what they're taxed and what you guys receive, or what we receive as a county?
Yeah, so one of the benefits to the Hollywood Casino is that we get gaming money. It's called gaming or local share municipal grant money. Gaming grant money is what we typically kind of in layman's terms call it, which is money that goes to fund municipalities that comes through the county. We have what's called a gaming advisory board. The gaming advisory board receives multiple applications for grants. These can be nonprofits. These can be, local fire companies, volunteer fire companies. It can be municipalities, all different kinds of things. And then because that tax exists, and that's an extra tax on top of the other taxes they pay, we're able to disperse that money again, largely to EMS and fire is where that money goes to support those. And we've actually made some changes to that board just to ensure that priority is held. I think the commissioners share that, fire and EMS need to be prioritized with that gaming money moving forward. And so that's one way. I don't know their exact taxable rate from a property perspective. I do want to say this just for people who don't understand counties. We're a third-class county. We only have the ability to tax property. That's all we have authority over. So when there's like a local share gaming grant for the casino, that's not something we did. That's something that the state did to allow us to have that. And so that's a real important distinction, because if you go to a county, for example, like Allegheny County, which is a home rule county, or Lehigh County, I believe, is a home rule county as well. They have the ability to tax they do like sin taxes, which means they can tax, because they're home rule, they can tax things like alcohol, cigarettes, other things. We don't have that taxing authority unless we would become home rule. And this isn't me advocating for us becoming home rule. I just want to be clear, but I'm saying the only thing we have the ability to tax is property tax, which puts us in quite the box when we're dealing with a revenue challenge. Like we were last year, and in some cases like we are this year.
For those that are unaware of what home rule is, there's a lot less oversight. You're not kind of reporting as much to the state, correct? Is that a good?
Yeah, sure. And the organization is a little bit different. It would be set up more like the city is. You would have what's called a chief, a county executive, which would be like the elected official that would almost be like the mayor of the county. I mean, this is probably the easiest way to explain it in layman's terms. And then you would have a board of commissioners that would kind of be like the city council.
Oh yeah.
And then the executive actually appoints the row officers. So they're not, and you kind of are able to operate, in theory, you're supposed to be able to operate a little more efficiently. Right. And I'm not advocating for that model. I'm just saying those models are given some more authority on taxing in some different places, but we are not able to tax the casino. The casino, right. that tax only exists because the state I think previously partnered with us in instituting that.
Okay,
Yeah,
Bill.
I work in the in journalism for like local journalism, state government, and county. I'm looking at stuff across the state, and you see these elections for a county executive, and that's what I think that's what you're talking about.
Yep,
You know, we
county
don't have a
executive.
county executive. The
No.
three commissioners are the executives making
Yep.
the policy decisions. Okay. The last thing on taxes, whenever that tax increase came out, 21%, it was on Lingelstown Gazette that I publish. It's focused on Central Dauphin School District. There was a lot of scuttlebutt about that tax, and I tried to make the argument to some, like me. I have a home that I purchased 75,000 maybe 35 years ago, and now it's probably worth $250,000 type of thing. So,
you're doing all right. Look at that.
Yeah. No plans to sell it, but when you take a look at the assessment and the tax rate, and you do the 21% on the numbers I'm working with, it was like $8 to $10 a month more. So that 21% sounds gigantic, but depending on the home, it may not be that gigantic, and people don't understand that or don't want to hear that. They just hate the 21%. That's too big.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah,
did you ever try and make that argument? Did you ever try and make that argument with people to say, let's take a look at your situation. This is what it amounts to because of your assessment being fairly low?
I don't think they want to hear that, Bill.
Okay.
I think Joe has it right. It doesn't matter if I raise it. It doesn't matter if we were to raise it 0.5%, 1%, 2%. The percentage matters in the sense that 20% was a big piece, right? But I think I think people, I also think there's a just gross mistrust in government right now.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'll just be honest, I think in a lot of cases that's been earned. And until we have trust that, the dollars that we do give to the government are going to go to things that are going to make our lives better and going to, make our communities be organized in a way that serve us better and serve our neighbors better. I'm not sure any kind of reasoning is going to always, be an option. I try to, like I said, I called everybody back, reached out to my office. I reached out, I sent kind of, I just remember those calls, and some people, they were reasonable, and some of them were just shocked that I even called back. But a lot of times, I try to help give them a little bit of a look behind the curtain, if they're open to seeing, and try to, help them understand the kind of the two bad decisions that are before us often, and a lot of the decisions we make as commissioners.
So let's, before we transition over to your run for Congress, for the U.S. House, what's your vision? No matter if you're around for another year and a half or whatever it would be, a little less than that, or if you're around for longer than that, what's your vision for Dauphin County? What do you see as the things that you'd like to see happen, whether you're there and helping to do it, or that you're in a new job, and just being able to watch it grow and kind of prosper?
Yeah, well, look, I'll be honest. We're about to talk about my, candidacy for Congress for Pennsylvania's 10th district, which includes all of Dauphin County. So I don't necessarily see this as
you're not abandoning it either
Dauphin
way.
County, exactly. Right. I see it as a continuation of the service.
Good point. Great point.
Constituents that I'm currently doing. But so I would say the vision is both and in this way. But look, I think at the county we've made some real progress. I'm really proud of. The new medical provider that we have in at our prison. It's already, there's some fundamental changes that I think are going to save taxpayer dollars. The amount of litigation that we've been in over the history of even just the last 5-10 years at Dauphin County Prison that have cost us millions and millions and millions of dollars. And that's just in settlements, not legal fees. And so I could go on and on about the cost savings there. I could go on and on about how our new provider is much more expensive than previous, but at the same time, we're not going to be sending people out to the hospital nearly as much, which actually will save us a good amount of money, because when we send people out to the hospital, we pay a lot, and they're not covered. They're not covered by Medicare when they go out to the hospital. Their insurance does not kick in when they go out to the hospital. It is all on us. So these are things that, like, I do think long term are going to have a significant impact on the financial position of the county, and I'm excited to kind of see how it's all going to play out. That's something I'm excited to just kind of continue to support that and continue to support reforms within our prison that make it better for our correction officers and make it better for our inmates. That's just an area I have oversight of. I want to continue to see resources and services provided to our community in a way that ultimately meets the needs that exist in our community. So that's my vision for Dauphin County, and I want to be able to do it in a way where we're able to be fiscally responsible and we're able to determine what our needs are as a county. If there is bloat, like, we need to get rid of it. If there is, dollars going to special interests over the necessity of people having jobs that are doing, the work on the ground, we need to figure that out. We need to get that, changed. So those are some things that I'm looking forward to as we continue to move Dauphin County forward.
Along the lines of the prison situation, how you said, well, a lot of people don't care about that, and they're not impressed that I want to improve prison conditions. I think those people don't realize that the people that are now incarcerated, the overwhelming majority, are going to be back out someday. Okay. And if they go untreated and they come back out resentful, not getting educated at all, not learning to, not having programs and what have you, they're going to end up being maybe worse than they were when they went in. Okay. And I'm talking about a human being here. So I'm not trying to be insensitive. Or if I'm using the wrong words, please forgive me. But
no, you're doing great.
I want my prisoners to have a chance to grow and to be treated and to come back out with their chin up and to become a productive member of society, because I'm going to be living with them and they're going to be living with me. So I my hat's off to you for caring about that. I'm going to take a different stance than a lot of people do. They're still human beings and they're going to be our neighbors again someday. The majority of them. So
I think it's important that people recognize that Dauphin County Prison, many of our prisoners are pre-trial, meaning they are innocent until proven guilty, but they're being held on bail because they can't afford bail. They can't afford to post bail. So I think that's actually the first place I start with most people is like, look, the majority of people here are innocent until proven guilty. And then you have the reality of what you're saying. Like, and by the way, if they are found guilty of something and it's over 2 years, they are then sent to a state facility.
Right.
If it's under 2 years, they stay
23 and a half months is the key figure.
Exactly.
There, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's important that people recognize, like, people leaving Dauphin County Prison are often, and I'm not going to say this is the case every single time, but often they're crimes that are not like state level offenses that would have got them sent away to state. And are we going to make Dauphin County Prison a place where they have access to resources so that they come out job ready, so that they come out literate, and that maybe the failing public education system that they were part of, or the lack of opportunity that they had, growing up, are we going to give them an opportunity? Not just like hand it to them. They're going to have to work. They're going to have to like do it. Like, they're going to have to take advantage of the resources that we provide.
There's no magic wand in there.
Yes, there is no magic wand. And I'll be honest, Dauphin County Prison isn't the best place to learn, isn't the best place to grow. It's like, this isn't the best environment to do all this stuff in. But at the same time, it's an environment that they're in. No matter what got them there, they're there. And while they're there, if we can resource them so that when they come out, they're better neighbors, they're better contributors to society, ultimately that has a much larger impact on public safety than many other contributing factors to public safety. And so we know that opportunity often brings people out of a life of crime or out of, criminogenic behavior that might accelerate or become worse. Someone who might have got incarcerated for stealing might be incarcerated for a violent crime next. And if we can catch them when they were incarcerated for stealing and give them opportunity that they come out with, we might have taken a violent crime off the table. And, I'm committed to that. And I think that's ultimately what the investment is about.
Yeah, there cannot be a sound argument against what you just said. So I agree with that. Bill, you want to take us down the path of Justin Douglas running for Congress here?
Just one last thing on the county level. This conversation shows the breadth and width of the county government. A lot of people don't understand all the services and departments that are there. We haven't even talked about mental health. We haven't talked about child development. We haven't talked about bridges and all those things. And we're not. We'd almost have to have you back again that talks about some of those things. But when you look at, you were sort of thrown into the chairmanship probably unexpectedly at some point in the last few months. We're not going to get into that, but as you look forward, just could you just name one or two things that you know are going to be very challenging? We'll just say the budget is definitely one of them for sure. But beyond that, anything else that you really think is going to be a big issue that might show up in the newspapers and things like that?
Look, I think you're right on the budget. The budget's going to be a challenge. I think the federal cuts are going to be a massive challenge because we have mandates. So here's the way it works. The state or federal government mandates us to do and provide a service as the county, right? And they fund it typically for a portion. It might be 90-10. They fund 90, we fund 10, or
right.
That level. Just say that for human services, for example, that's typically, the ratios are a little larger on funding, and it's less property tax funding. As we're seeing some of these, I think I'll interpret it just as myself personally, indiscriminate cuts that are acting like everything is waste, and we're just going to cut programs that are vital, that people rely on. That we've seen over the last, less than a year from this administration. That is going to have a trickle down effect to counties that I don't think people realize. And counties are going to be put in a position to determine whether or not they're going to continue to provide services that, again, are mandated to provide. If those mandates change, and which, by the way, I think if the mandates change, it's going to be very bad for our communities if those services stop being provided. And so commissioners are going to be put in a position of determining if they're going to continue to provide something. There's a lot of unknowns. We're in a lot of unprecedented territory with some of the cuts we're seeing, and the ways in which it's going to impact the county. And so it's hard to know exactly how those are going to translate to problems. But here's one example. The Central Pennsylvania Food Bank experienced a pretty massive cut. Look, we have a lot of people that are human services adjacent, meaning they're part of, all these programs that we have as human services that we deploy in the county. And we rely a lot on, referencing people to go to the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, or food banks that ultimately rely on Central Pennsylvania Food Bank to bring in food to a local kind of almost satellite of Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. Look, they're struggling to keep food. And now we're looking at a November 1st date where SNAP benefits are going to stop, and more people are going to be, coming to food pantries. These are all things that I think are going to have some intersection with county commissioners and decisions and resources that we deploy. So I think that's going to be an ongoing struggle. That would be the other thing I would say. I think we're going to see, like, how do we respond to these things?
Okay.
Yeah,
so go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. Apparently there's some word on the street. I haven't heard it, but that the counties in a situation where they may run out of money or have money problems in the spring. I mean, what's the reality of that?
Oh, it's sooner than the spring. Our county?
Okay.
Yeah. Our county's gonna. We're in a tough situation. So I mean, I'll just be blunt. I've talked to other media about this. I think we're either approaching or we've surpassed $400,000 in lost interest money from paying for our human services costs out of savings. So we've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in what would have been interest earned money. So that's ultimately would have been Dauphin County money, because the way this works is we have to keep paying our employees. We have to keep paying for these services. And typically what would happen is we would pay for them and then get reimbursed by the state. But the state not having a budget means we don't get reimbursed. When we don't get reimbursed, we have to front that money, no reimbursement. Next month, front that money, no reimbursement. Next month, front that money, no reimbursement.
And then pay interest on it, right?
And no, not pay interest on it. This all is money that's sitting in savings, making interest.
Oh, okay.
That we're pulling out of. That we're pulling out of interest.
Losing interest.
Now, but what you're saying is what we're up against now. It might be in the middle of November that we're forced with the decision to either furlough or lay off 257 employees, or have to take a loan. And many counties that took a loan during the last impasse that was extended in Pennsylvania are still paying off those loans. And so it's my desire not to have to do that. But at the same time, I can't see a world where we furlough 257 employees that are doing critical county business that we're mandated to provide. So we just have, again, two bad decisions before us. And a lot of it is being spurred on by what's happening at the state and what's happening at the federal government. And so I do think a lot of the challenges we're going to experience, especially over the next few months and probably into next year, are going to be kind of the waterfall effect of what comes down to us from the federal government and the state government. And that's something I'm deeply concerned about.
Yeah. And just for anyone to join, we're talking to Justin Douglas, Dauphin County Commissioner, the chairman. What are those two bad decisions? 'Cause based on our conversation, I'm not sure what those two decisions are.
So I was just referencing this one particular case where, like, you're up against the potential of pausing work on 257 employees and no longer sending out resources or taking out a loan to keep these services and to keep these employees paid, which I think our human services, I think I was told it was 1.5 million a month to keep our employees going.
Bill, he was saying they're faced with two tough options.
Yeah. So I'm saying we're faced with two tough options because none of us want to enter into a loan. We know the state's not going to pay us back the interest lost on that loan.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that, we know that's not going to happen. So none of us want to put the county in that position, but none of us want to be in the other position of, laying off employees or furloughing them. And so this is what I'm saying. Unfortunately, with leadership, when you are dealing with, large decisions, often there are very many times where it is A and B, and they are clearly, there's clearly one that is the good decision and one that is the bad decision, one that will get you all the praise and one that will get you all the blame. But often I've found in this job, you are making decisions on two problems, hoping to find the one that's going to be the least consequential in interrupting services and in, protecting taxpayers. And it's often a challenge to enter into those decisions.
Okay, so let's jump into this run for Congress. How was this hatched? I mean, was this something that somebody approached? Because there was a hatching of this, okay? You either thought, and you have a relationship with God, okay? It might have been something that you kind of felt like God was kind of nudging you towards or putting in front of you. There was probably people in the community, maybe in your family, that thought it would be a good idea, or you just woke up on a certain side of the bed that you thought, this is what's next for me. Which one of those was it?
Bill, you had your finger up. Did you want to say something?
Oh.
Go ahead. Yeah.
From my observation, there was an announcement that showed up in PennLive.com that you were considering running an exploratory committee, and it was some time that passed before you actually officially said you're running. So it'd be interesting to hear what happened during that exploratory thing to come down with the decision. Yes, I'm going to move forward.
Thanks,
with this
Bill. I'm sorry I didn't see your finger up there.
Yeah, no. So before the announcement of an exploratory committee, I had maybe some of you might remember some of the work I was doing with the Bhutanese Nepali community around some of the detentions of green card holders and the revoking of those green cards and the deportation of that community. And in a lot of those conversations, there was some encouragement for me to consider running for higher office, to where some of these particular decisions are made, and and the authority ultimately that we're seeing in these particular cases of ICE, have come from Congress. And so that was something that was mentioned to me in passing. I kind of laughed it off. It continued to be mentioned to me. There was a number of people that were reaching out wanting, I think, me to consider it, and I felt it was way too early. I'm like, I'm a year and a few months into my term as commissioner, and so I kind of, in a lot of ways, shrugged it off. It continued to be something that I kind of was it just kind of was in the back of my mind, is like, this is interesting, and continued to have people kind of tapping on my shoulder asking me about it. Then I decided, okay, well, let's at least launch an exploratory committee and consider what this is going to look like, and met with a lot of trusted people in that time, many of which, encouraged me to run, many of which encouraged me not to run. It was, I had a lot of different perspectives. I try to listen to people that are going to tell me bluntly and real, that, care about me and are, going to try to tell me what I'm getting into. And yeah, I took some time to think about it and then plan if I was going to do this, what would it look like? I think the best story, and part of the reason it took a while for me to launch the campaign, is because my wife and I sat down. She gave me her list of non-negotiables, which was like, we're still going to do Sunday dinners, we're still going to do this, and like gave me basically like all of her non-negotiables. And one of them was that I needed to clean out the back shed, and that took some time. You know what I mean? That shed was a mess. So basically, since 2019, we've just been chucking everything in that shed. So I always laugh and say that took some time. But no, it was a real discerning process. I think what's happening at the federal level right now, we need leaders that are going to push back against a lot of, I think, the special interest control and the ultimately the billionaires and millionaires that I think often are influencing elections and influencing elected officials, not for the interest of the working class, but for the interest of the rich class, and that was something that I felt like I already had a history of pushing back on corruption here in the county, and that I might be able to take that fight to Washington.
Good.
Hey, Joe, I have two other quick questions since we're at an hour now, but
take us down the go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, the one would be, I guess we'll start out with this one. Running a county campaign is one thing. Running a congressional campaign, a lot different when it comes to the money that you may need to get the attention and get people to know you. So how are you approaching the fundraising aspect of this?
Well, I'm on your podcast. I'm getting all the attention I need right now.
Okay. This is the floodgates are going to open tonight.
Yeah, I know. It's over now. It's over now. I know. Look, I'm under no illusion that like I was grossly out fundraised in my commissioner campaign. We only raised $12,000 for a commissioner seat. That's I'd be shocked to see if anybody's raised that little in a county like Dauphin County and won,
Right.
Yeah, fundraising wasn't my strong suit of my first campaign. And obviously fundraising is really important in a congressional campaign. But I also think what's really important in a congressional campaign is authenticity and being a candidate that, is for the people. And so we're not taking special interest PAC money because I don't want anybody to be in my ear except the people if I were to be successful and get into Washington. And so we're taking small dollar donations. We have received, I think we're up to a little over 3,000 donations. We've received a donation from every state in DC now. I think our average donation is somewhere around $23 or something to that effect. So we're pretty proud of look, I think I had 100 donors in my commissioner campaign, if that. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. So in a matter of a few weeks, we've amassed thousands of people that have supported this financially, and I think we're continuing to build on that every day. And I'm proud of that. And I think obviously, look, the individual I'm running against on the Democratic side got into the race prior to me and secured a lot of endorsements and secured a lot of funds, but at the same time we have some endorsements that are coming. Most people are waiting to endorse until after this November election, and I think those will lead to more fundraising opportunities and vice versa, fundraising opportunities that'll lead to more people taking us seriously and endorsing us. But I feel confident that we can raise the money needed to get my name out there. But I don't think that needs to be millions of dollars. I don't think it should cost millions of dollars for us to have people that represent us in Washington. And if we're just going to say that that's the price of doing business, then we've really conceded to be represented by oligarchs. And I'm just not going to concede that ground.
Well,
I've seen Joe.
That is what it is. But I guess if
it is what it is. But you guys have votes. And votes matter.
Hopefully we can find a way out of it. I don't mean it is what it is. Let's give up on that. I'm just saying that's what it currently is. That's what I mean.
It is. I agree with you. I agree.
Arrived to that point.
The reality. It's the reality on both sides, Democrats and Republicans. Correct. And so I think we need candidates that are going to, stand on principle and say, these are my values. I'm not going to be bought when I get to Washington. I'm going to represent the people, the working class. and the people that give me $5, $10, $20 donations over the people that, funnel millions into my campaign.
Good.
Well, I am enjoying your TikTok ads. Are you on any other social media platforms?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram, Facebook,
Okay.
TikTok, X, Blue Sky, basically all the platforms. And look, you say ads, but they're just reels. Like we're
All right,
most of
shorts.
our content. Some of our content is paid, but most of our content is not paid. And
Okay.
we believe in organically connecting with people, and most of the reels I'm creating, or I just talked to somebody today who said, like, that's the best political donation solicitation I've ever seen, which is me in a suit with glasses, talking to another version of me with a t-shirt and jeans. And basically I have this thing that comes above my head that says I'm a, DC, kind of, consultant, and
Yeah.
you need to fundraise. And then and I kind of have this back and forth that's kind of creative or whatever. And he was kind of surprised with just our social media presence and, how it's been. And I tell people, look, I don't think about this stuff. I'm a digital native. Like I grew up on these platforms. This is where, and so we're very active there because we feel like, a lot of people are there, and that's how social media, and I'll give this to Trump. That's a place where he certainly was able to, I think, engage and connect with people. And I think we need more people on these platforms using them in creative ways to engage and connect with voters.
Bill and I grew up on Atari. We grew up.
Oh, I love Atari. I love Atari.
On Pong.
Play some Pong. Yeah, let's do it.
Go ahead, Bill.
Here's the last question. The last question would be: we know right now that Janelle Stelson, I mean, almost was very close to getting Perry the last time around, and she did get a head start. But putting that aside, what do you think you can bring to overcome that in terms of what you're going to do that maybe she wouldn't focus on, or the strengths you have that maybe she doesn't have?
Good question,
to make a case here in this upcoming primary next year?
Look, I'll just say it this way: the status quo isn't working in politics on either side right now, and I think we need candidates who are going to push the envelope, who are going to be principled leaders, who are going to lead with integrity, but also fight for the people. And I really do think what we need is someone who's going to say, look, hard work's supposed to pay off. Growing up, I saw my dad work so hard in the factory when we moved to Indiana. He had a business that he started, and then that business failed. It was a small business. And he went to work in the factory, worked 12.5-hour shifts. I came home from college one summer and worked in that same factory and worked 12.5-hour shifts. And it gave me a new respect for the work that my dad did. But my mom and dad worked, and it paid off. And ultimately, they're in a much better position now financially because of the hard work. I look at my generation and I see us working hard. And I'm not going to, I know there's a lot of, beliefs about millennials, but I've worked hard in my life. And like I said earlier, I've worked 3 jobs at one point to provide for my family. But it's very hard to get ahead. Many of us have student loans that we paid for, or that we got into, that ultimately those jobs did not pay off in the way that, was the 6 figures of debt we might have held coming out of that. Many of us, we're struggling to survive. And I think we need someone who goes to Washington and says, the hard work of constituents across this country needs to get back to a place where it pays off for them to work hard. And I think we also need a revival of love and care of our neighbors. I think that might be the pastoral piece I bring to this, but I think it's a principle from all religions. I don't want to make it about me as a pastor or some religious principle. I think it's a human principle. We're seeing our neighbors being, I'll say it, kidnapped. I mean, as we look at what's happening in Chicago, as we look at what's happened in Portland, we're seeing a gross government overreach. I have no problem calling that out for what it is and saying that, look, due process is part of the Constitution for a reason and for a purpose. And any authority we give to someone to skirt due process to be able to just walk up to someone. And I just saw a video today where an ICE agent walks up to someone and asks them for their social security number. And when they didn't have it memorized, they handcuffed them. I never knew that was something that we had to have memorized in order to just walk the streets in America as a brown person. I won't be stopped. You guys probably won't be stopped, but it's really unfortunate as I talk to Dauphin County residents, especially who are American citizens, but naturalized here from other countries and are afraid to go to the grocery store because they think they might get picked up. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to make that a central part of my campaign. I'm not afraid to talk about that because I think, any government overreach like this sets a precedent that can be used in the future against anybody. And I don't think it's something that should happen. I think I'm probably going to be the only one saying it like it is in this particular case. So those are some distinctions that I think might be different about my campaign, but everyone can go to my Instagram, Justin Douglas, the number 4 us, and follow and see what I have to say and ask me questions. I'm an open book. I answer every question. I don't try to skirt it.
Yes, you do.
You've seen through this interview. Yep. I'm not trying to skirt anything. I lay it all out there who I am.
All right. Well, he is first-term Dauphin County Commissioner Justin Douglas, also the chair of the Dauphin County Commissioners, running for U.S. House, aka Congress. And that won't be for that election
next year,
just about a year from now. Mm-hmm. You're always welcome to come back.
Thank you. I would love to come back. This is a great conversation.
Hopefully get bigger and have more followers. This is relatively new. And I think we're the only gig in town, though. So that's kind of
I love it.
that does anything close to this. So that's kind of to our advantage. So thank you so much, Justin.
Yeah, thank you.
We really appreciate it. And best wishes working for the county and in your run for Congress. We really appreciate
and just know that this video is not copyrighted. You're welcome to use any part of it that you want to. Just go ahead and do it.
Thank you so much.
You can cut it up and just use the good parts. Bill and me out, if you want.
Well, I just want to say, Bill and Joe, thank you so much for taking the time tonight to ask. You asked some great questions, and I really appreciate it. I talked to quite a few people, and these were great questions, and I appreciate this, and certainly what you're providing to the community. I love to hear that you've got some great guests lined up that are local leaders that hopefully are going to continue to make your listeners more aware of local issues, and they can be more engaged, they can be more aware. I think we need more platforms like this doing this work. So thanks for your sacrifice and your service to the community in this capacity.
Yeah, we're having fun. So that's
yeah.
All right. Good night.
Good night, Justin. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Take care. All right. So that's first-term Dauphin County Commissioner Justin Douglas. Man, that was a lot there, Bill, huh?
It is.
He ended up upright. He withstood it all, and he did a great job. I thought it was a great interview. And so anyway, for those that came in maybe at the tail end, just a reminder: tomorrow night we have Lower Paxton Township Supervisor Alan McCormick joining us. Sunday night, we're at a special time. We have Lower Paxton Township Supervisor Chair Laura Kurtz joining us at 8:00 rather than 7. And then a week from tomorrow, Thursday, the 6th of November, will be Justin McShane, local attorney, and a lot more. Justin McShane. So anything else, Bill?
No, that's about it. That was. I need to go eat supper. This was draining.
I cut you off, didn't I, from your eating? I'm sorry.
Here it is.
Listen, you have a good microphone, and that's probably the reason I could hear every last chew, bite, everything. So thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow night.
All right, good night.
Bill.